one. Well, hey, Dave Molenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a topic and a question today that I know very little about, and so I always have to give in to the experts. And so I'm super excited to ask you this question. And I have to say, I don't know the answer to this. So I'm asking, usually I have a kind of an answer, kind of a thought, but today is completely out of my comfort zone because we're talking about money. And the question is, why does my profit not match my bank account? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck? You're just reading my mind because, yeah, I hear about all the time people have a great profit and loss statement, but they have no cash or they have no cash flow, all these words that make me all nervous. So I'm like, I got to figure out who asked that question. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Katie Koss. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm so happy to be on here. So thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. You are the owner of Koss Accounting Solutions. And so when I hear the word accounting, I'm just going to put it out there. Like I get nervous, I get all tense because like I told you before we jumped on, I'm one of the few in the world, maybe I'm the only one that's never balanced their checkbook in their life. I've always just assumed if you got enough money in there, it's not a big deal. And so I'm just like, me and money are like, yeah, we get along, but I'm like, I don't really watch it nearly as close as I should. So we have a ton of people from around the world right now listening about this. A lot of people love to hear about your journey because you were in corporate America and then you jumped into owning your own business. And there's tons of people listening right now that are dying to hear that story. So fill us in, Katie, if you can, on how that happened for you.
Yeah, so I spent about 15 years in corporate America. A lot of those years were held at executive level positions. I
Okay.
made my way up to director of finance in the assisted living sector. And then I was networking and kind of going out and talking to other business owners. And I realized that a lot of the skills that I have gained by sitting next to owners, by talking to entrepreneurs and working in these executive level meetings were
Sure.
skills that would really help and benefit these small to medium-sized companies, these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, and there was this overwhelming need and excitement when people heard that there are these skills in finance and things that they could learn. And so I saw this opportunity, and I thought, what an amazing opportunity to give back to
Yeah.
those in our community, the people that are really going to benefit the most from these skills, from understanding their financials and growing their
Yeah.
businesses. And
Wow,
that's really
that's
when I brought on
yeah,
cost accounting solutions.
that's so cool. And like when you say director of finance, so I obviously said naughty words when I said I never balanced a checkbook before because we have a director of finance going, "What are you doing? Are you nuts?" So I totally understand that piece. And for people listening, the big question always is, did you know like growing up that you eventually were going to own your own business? Was that even on your radar? Because a lot of people want to know like, man, I'm in my 30s and I haven't even thought about it, but now I have this desire. Where did it kind of jump in for you that you're like, man, I think I want to own my own business? Do you recall that?
Yeah, I actually do. It's a really funny story. So I did come from an entrepreneur family. My parents
Okay.
owned an auto shop, and I seen all the hard work and effort and everything that went into growing a business. And honestly, I thought I never wanted to be a business owner. I thought I was going to be overwhelmed. I was, all this really crazy stuff. And so my idea was I was always going to be in corporate. I was going to keep climbing up that corporate ladder. I was
Sure.
always going to be there to serve the owners. And then, funny enough, I was in an interview and I was talking about with one of the owners, I was talking about, kind of their journey and things. And I was like, oh, I don't think I could ever do that. I like the security of working
Yeah.
for somebody. And she
Sure.
said, you don't have security. I could fire you tomorrow. And I thought, wow, it was like mind blowing. I
Yeah.
thought that really like was what sparked the beginning of everything. And then, like I said, as I got out and I networked and I seen what was in the community and all that fun
Yeah.
stuff, I really found that that my skill set was needed and these opportunities were there. And I thought, I'm going to take the jump. And I did. And it has been one of the most amazing journeys that I've ever gone through. So if you're on the
Congratulations.
fence,
Yeah,
it could
no,
be
congrats.
something really, yeah.
That's so cool. And so many people are listening right now that are so envious of that piece, Katie, because whether it's in their field, in their profession, or something, totally opposite, it doesn't really matter. I think what's interesting is, like you said, you thought you wouldn't be in that business owner role. So for people listening right now, maybe that's you. Maybe you're thinking, I couldn't be that. We're here to encourage you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Don't take her way, don't take my way. We just suggest that you explore those options if it's something that's really, on your heart to do. And I'm guessing now, looking back, you're like, man, I wish I would have did it earlier. I can't imagine going back into corporate. Are those kind of your thoughts right now?
100%. Yeah. Like I said, it's been the most amazing journey. I feel like I'm sharing, skills and thoughts and things with owners that it's been like changing for them. We are
Yeah,
growing businesses and giving it back to the community, to their families, really empowering them, putting systems and things in place. And the joy that kind of comes along with that has been, I almost don't have words for it. It's been
sure.
so amazing.
That's so cool. And I think that that's the power of this is that, we live in a country that we can do that. It gives us the ability to do it. So again, today, all we're asking is just take a glimpse at that for yourself. If it's something that you're interested in, great. We'd love to help you with it. If not, totally fine too. It's just one of those scenarios that I don't like meeting people, Katie, that are just like so like burdened down. I hate my job. I hate my company, I hate my team, but hey, I got to make a mortgage and I got two kids in college, whatever that is. And again, we're not here to tell you to change anything. I just love that you have this passion now that you probably didn't have as at least as much when you were, involved in other people. And especially like that person told you, I could fire you right now. I mean, depending on what state you're in and all that, we're in
Right.
Wisconsin here, which is a fire at will state. So you know what? They don't need me. They can fire me. And like so that security that you may think you have, obviously may not be there. So totally cool. Thanks for sharing that. So to my question now of why does my profit not match my bank account? Because I hear a lot of people with strong P&Ls or their profit and loss statements are strong, but they might be struggling financially, they might be struggling with cash flow. How do you kind of simplify that for somebody that's listening that is in that spot where their profit and their bank accounts aren't aligning? What do you do in that spot?
Yeah, so I don't want to get too complicated in the weeds with everything, but essentially there's a lot of main things, and it's because I feel like it has a lot to do with it's more than just looking at your profit and loss statement. There is your balance sheet statement that we should be reviewing, and then a cash flow statement. And that's
Okay.
really going to tell you kind of where your cash is going. And a lot of the places that we see where people have high revenue and maybe even good profit margins on their profit and loss statement is like things like accounts receivable. You may be billing the money out, but you're not collecting that money in.
Yeah,
So really keeping an eye on that and making sure somebody is following up and getting the invoices out quickly and communicating and giving good customer service to your clients and making sure that that communication is open.
sure.
Then you see different areas like if you're purchasing assets like inventory, maybe you're overbuying inventory and that doesn't flow over to your profit and loss statement until you're selling it. It really
Yeah.
sits as an asset on that balance sheet. So you could be sitting on things that really aren't making a return and giving you your money at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and especially now with the fluctuation of pricing on raw materials, I'm guessing that temptation is there to overbuy inventory, which again can hurt. Obviously, it can help, and you're here for financial advice. I'm not. If I can't balance a checkbook, the last thing you want to ask me is financial advice. So that's why we bring experts like Katie in on this. So But so you mentioned something like AR, the accounts receivable. I notice people sometimes they think in their mind, we're going to use a number of $100,000 just for easy math. I have $100,000 in accounts receivable. Therefore, I feel like that's the same as a bank, where I have $100,000 in the bank. And the problems really are not that simple because they could not pay you. Every month that they don't pay you, it costs money. Kind of walk us through if you have a higher AR, what are some things that potentially can cause trouble within your company?
Yeah, well, I mean, you did mention it right there is that bank account that you will not see that money kind of coming in. And when you aren't collecting your accounts receivable, essentially that is money and missed opportunities in your business. Um, Really, it's so important to kind of stay on top of that. So important so that I even suggest doing like monthly or even weekly reviews of the AR and make sure that you're staying on top of it. One of the things that I set up, especially when I was in corporate, is having bi-weekly meetings where we
Okay.
are reviewing and kind of going over that, making notes. When's the last time that you called somebody? What are the things that they said? Really
Yeah.
focusing on making that collection, because like you said, it's not a bank account. I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, until that money comes in, you really don't have anything. It actually, just sits there as an asset, but it could become uncollectible, especially if you're not following up quickly.
Wow. And that's the thing about it is I think it's funny because like when you talk to different business owners, they will not try at all to practice law on their own. They have an attorney for that, right? But it seems like accounting, it's like some people feel like I got this, I can do this myself. Again, I don't even pretend to think that I can do it myself, but there are probably a lot of people listening right now that try to do it themselves. And I feel like it's like doing your taxes by yourself, where you potentially can miss some advantages, you can miss some good opportunities. Do you find a lot of people in your travels, Katie, that are trying to limp along and do it themselves, and then they call you by the time there's trouble? Or when do people generally call you to get you involved in their company?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we see that a lot. We're getting phone calls when people have like large cleanup projects. Essentially,
Okay.
they've been doing it themselves. They feel really overwhelmed. They don't really understand the accounting system and the background of the system, and they kind of have a little bit of a mess. And there's quite a bit of cleanup work that has to go in before you can even get solid financial data to be able to
Yeah.
use and make decisions with. So, yeah, and that is one area that we do see quite a bit. I mean, even looking at my board of to-dos, there's quite a few cleanup projects, and usually anybody that we bring on to monthly services,
Yeah.
they usually have a bit of cleanup to do before we're even able to start doing those monthly accounting things for them and having those financial statements reviews and things. So.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's got to be the hard part is getting people to square one, ground zero, whatever you call it, right? Where you can move forward. If you got to do a big cleanup project, and it seems more often than not, as a business coach, I end up with, working with clients, and that's one of the big things that happen is they have this kind of this, this either the elephant in the room that they don't want to talk about, this big cloud that's over them. Sometimes it's a blind spot, they don't even
Yeah.
know that they have this issue, and trying to get them to see them getting to ground zero has got to be hard. Are you also then, once you get me to ground zero or someone listening to ground zero, is your goal then to continue to help them so that they don't have to get in that spot again, I'm guessing?
Yeah, 100%. As much as we take on cleanup work, we're really looking for people who want to partner, who want to grow, who want to work
Yeah.
together. When we talk about like ideal clients and things like that, it's really someone who's passionate. They want to grow their business, they're involved in their business, and they're really looking for that next step to get to that next like elevation point in their business. So that growth
Sure.
opportunity.
Well, and it's interesting because growth is, we're involved in growth from a sales perspective, from a team perspective, from an overall business perspective. And it seems like money's like an afterthought. You've used growth a number of times, that word. And so like I'm assuming growth doesn't mean more money necessarily, because you can grow your sales but reduce, and grow your expenses more. I mean, there's kind of these like sweet spots where I don't know as a business owner what I don't know. So I just keep selling and I think that I'm doing well. And that's where I think you come in and really it's got to be a shock for some people that think they're doing really well. And then you do a behind the scenes look, so to speak, and all of a sudden all's not well. Is that happen a lot, or is that just kind of a once in a while type thing?
That happens quite a bit.
Okay.
And I think that you really said it perfectly. A lot of people think that revenue equals my business is doing amazing. And really, if you're gonna look at your business and really evaluate it, it's not just revenue, it's the profit at the bottom line. So we use a system where it's like percentage of revenue. So this helps you really understand and scale your business. So what you do is you take the lines in your expenses and you take the lines for your profit margins at the bottom and you divide those by the revenue amount. And that tells you, are you making 30%? Are you making 20%? Is your rent 50% of what you're bringing in for your revenue? And that really helps you not only evaluate against other businesses in your industry, but it can really show you like where maybe you're overspending or underspending, or is your profit worth it at the end of the day? So a lot of misconception is revenue means my business is doing well and I'm going to have a whole
Yeah.
bunch of money in the bank. But really, it has to look at revenue against that expenses, because the profit at the end of the day is what we really should be looking at.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like from the sales training side on our end, we focus on the sales growth, but again, we have to balance that out because you can sell more, but if your expenses exceed that, or you have to hire more people to do that. I mean, we hear about these big companies that are, on the stock exchange and they made X number or they lost X number of dollars this quarter. I mean, it's like not even, it's hard to even imagine how somebody can lose like $50 million in a quarter and not like go, bankrupt, out of business, shut down. But that's
Yeah.
obviously these monster businesses. The small businesses, are they running more paycheck to paycheck or, because this is like one of those things that if you do get a receivable that doesn't collect, that can be devastating to a small business. How do you guys, I mean, are you helping your clients with AR type things where you're making the calls for them, or where how in the weeds do you guys get for somebody listening?
Yeah, so majority of the time, the owner or somebody on their team would take on the collection calls
Okay,
just because they had that relationship with with their
sure.
clients. But
Gotcha.
we do offer kind of a tailored accounting approach. So we do what is best for your business. So if there is something that you wanted to talk about or move over to us, it's something that we could probably support you with, but normally it's somebody within the company that kind of has that relationship with the client already and
Yeah.
can collect. With the client and make it a smoother process, because collecting is kind of a sensitive subject. Either
Sure.
you have people who do it very aggressively,
Yeah.
or you have someone who doesn't want to do it at all. And a lot of times what we see is owners don't want to pick up the phone and call the client and ask for money because it just doesn't, it's not what
Yeah.
they want to do, but it's something that is very vital to your business.
Wow. And I think the what little I know, one thing I do know that I don't think is a good idea, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this before we take our break, is do you suggest, because I don't think it's healthy for a sales professional to call collecting money. Do you think that do you agree with that and you try to keep it in the actual accounting bookkeeping department and out of the sales department?
I do. And only because of the relationship that sales kind of has. The
Yeah.
main focus is that you continue with that growth and those opportunities, building that relationship. And if there's an
Yep.
opportunity to maybe bring it up here and there, or if you feel like it fits in your business, and then do what you feel is best. But I would suggest that it probably stays with somebody outside of there. That way you protect that relationship and you
Yep.
continue on with like the growth of the company through that channel and just allow others to follow up and create a different relationship
Yeah.
within the same client.
Yeah,
So
no kidding. And I tell you, it's funny because salespeople, the last thing we want is to get shut down and not be able to sell something to somebody. So, it just puts people in an awkward spot. So I guess again, we'll jump into this after the break. If you're listening and you have your sales professionals, your sales team, anybody other than your accounting department making those calls, I would reconsider that just purely from the customer's perspective as well as from the salesperson, because salesperson, like you said, Katie, we're trying to grow this thing. And then here in my mind, and I'm a black and white thinker, so I'm like, you're either growing it or you're not growing it. And I always get in wars with operations. Sales and operations seem to always clash because sales wants to do yes, and operations like, no, we can't do that, right? So there's always that piece. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to kind of shift into thinking about taking this from basic bookkeeping to being more strategic in our finances. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm honored to be hanging out with Katie Koss, the owner of Koss Accounting Solutions LLC. And we've been talking about some of the simpler things. I want to kind of transition. So this is where it gets over my head. So throw me a lifeline if I get off. But I'm thinking about this strategic financial piece versus, like, I always think of bookkeeping where there's somebody just doing kind of the day-to-day journal entries, money in, money out type of thing. But then there's this more complicated strategic financial part that obviously, as a past director of finance, that was kind of your sweet spot where we can actually have money working for us. We can really find some of the great ideas that, some of the like me, the non-money people, I wouldn't know that. So when you hear that, do you get people saying, Katie, I got the bookkeeping done. I want to kind of take this up a notch or two. What does that look like for somebody listening if they've never really thought of like strategic finances and that next level? What does that look like to you?
yeah, so I mean, if we're talking like what we're doing when we're kind of advising and working with our clients, that's looking at the opportunity for growth, maybe doing budgeting, cash flow statements, projections, talking about different opportunities where we could maybe shift vendors or expenses. How can we increase revenue, lower expenses, and really still give that great value back to the clients that we're serving? So it's really anywhere from should we be hiring a different person? Is our team overwhelmed? Do we have the budget for that? How are we going to stay on track to are we investing? Do we have our money working for us? If we have, money set aside for something that is, a year down the road, are we putting that in and investing it into CDs or sweeps accounts, things like that? So looking at your business as a whole, not just the numbers anymore.
Gotcha. That's so cool. And you mentioned two things that I think are really important, like budgeting and projections, because now budgeting and projections generally get outside of the accounting department. They kind of start to incorporate the whole entire company, which I think is really healthy to have multiple views of the finances in whatever limited capacity. I mean, marketing, sales, HR, whatever you have that's non finances, they have budget needs. They're pretty good at providing projections. If somebody was like sitting here right now listening and they're like, I've never done a budget, a sales budget, or an expense budget. I've never done any sales projections. Are those things that you guys can help with for somebody that's listening right now?
Yeah, 100%. It's actually where I love to spend my time is sitting down and really understanding. And I know that I may be a little bit of a nerd with it, but I absolutely love budgeting. I love creating a spreadsheet, putting it in place, running profit, budget to actuals, and really understanding like what happened, where are we at, and where are we going. And I think a budget is an amazing tool for that. So
That's
yes,
cool.
100% we
Yes.
can help
Awesome.
with
Yeah. So
enthusiasm.
yes, exactly. No kidding. Well, and that's the thing about this is, Katie's here for you, the listener, right now, to be able to help because I'll just say for myself, when I own my businesses, I don't know what I don't know. So the earlier that I'm able to acknowledge that and identify what I don't know, and then bring on, like an attorney, we didn't know what we didn't know. So you bring on an attorney who knows that piece. Katie knows that piece, whether it's, the projecting, the budgeting. There's one thing that I do have a question about because I hear this a lot and I get a lot of negative feedback from a lot of clients that want to use like a line of credit. They have access to some money from the bank. A line of credit, if I understand it right, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's money at the bank, they'll borrow you and they'll just give you a rate of interest that you have to pay it back by. But it's kind of like a short-term note. I feel like a lot of people, I mean, and again, probably in the best case, it's great not to have to use it. But I'm
Yeah.
guessing where you're talking about growth, where you're talking about expansion, whether it's a building, whether it's a team expansion, whether it's into a new market. Let me ask it this way. Are there some areas that line of credit is actually a good thing for a business?
Yeah, yes, yes, I do strongly believe that because especially for people who are really tight on cash, you usually don't have the cash to get you to that next level. Now, I'm not saying just go out and get a line of credit or a loan or something like that, right off the bat or anything, but if you strategically do it and you place it in, I'm going to do this to buy this to grow this, and you have a
Yeah.
plan and looked at the numbers and you understand what they're saying to you, there is absolutely great opportunity when leveraging those like debts and things like that, like the line of credit and things to grow your business. And I do think it's really important if done strategically.
And I'm assuming the bank isn't just going to walk in and give you $1 million line of credit. They're looking for a business plan. They're looking for that strategy, that financial strategic strategy that we were talking about before. So it's almost like it forces you to kind of turn this corner into if I really want this X number of dollars to put an addition on my building to be able to create, more jobs or create more widgets, whatever I'm doing. That's where I think the bank really can add value and you guys add value because now there's these three people. There's the bank, there's you guys, and then there's me as the business owner. And together we're strategizing what that looks like rather than like, hey, what do you guys want to do today? Oh, give me $1 million and I'll go, spend it in some way, shape, or form. I'm assuming banks need a lot of that work in place prior to them agreeing to a line of credit. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that is usually the case. And they're usually wondering, are your financials clean? Are your taxes up to date? What is your plan? Like you said, putting a strategic plan together of saying, here's what we want to do with this money and things like that. The only time that you may not have to provide so much is if, I guess, you're leveraging your assets that you already have. But again, still having strong financials in place, having everything, reviewed and kind of that stamp of approval is really important. And then having a partner like us involved definitely helps that process go smoother. We have different bankers and things that we can reach out to, and we understand what they're looking for and how they operate and what they think about, and we could help prepare you to have those conversations and in most cases sit alongside you for the entire journey.
Sure, that's so cool. So, what would be the difference between that line of credit that may fluctuate? Some days you use it, some days you don't. What's the difference between that and like an SBA, Small Business Administration loan, where we take out a fixed amount of money and then, it kind of has a fixed amount that we have to repay? When do you decide on a line of credit versus an SBA loan, for instance?
Yeah, really, you look at a lot of different factors. What are you using it for? What are you purchasing? So what are you purchasing with it? What is the, percentage rate, things like that. So, if people are familiar with like HELOCs and things, that's the same thing as the line of credit. So essentially, if you know that you're going to have growth over a long period of time, a line of credit might be the better way because then you can pull only what you need and accrue interest only on what you've taken and utilized to grow the business. A lot of times when you're looking at loans, you're taking a large amount. So if you don't utilize that or you're not using it to purchase a big asset or something where it's directly going into something, then you are paying interest on money that you're not utilizing and not working for you. So you're paying more interest than you probably need
Gotcha.
for the growth of the company. So I would say loans usually go with purchasing of assets, where line of credits usually kind of go with the growth of the business. But again, it all depends on your situation and what we've evaluated at that time.
Gotcha. Are there any things that I shouldn't use the line of credit for? Because I was always taught like try not to use line of credit for payroll. Try not. There's certain things that you shouldn't do that with, and I was just curious if that's if that's a safe bet or if there's other things that we shouldn't use a line of credit for.
Yeah, I mean, you really want your business to be able to support itself. So if you are pulling in order to keep your business running in that moment, unless that there's an actual growth, like we needed to hire a big person because that's what's going to get us to that next step, you're really
Yeah,
kind of looking at uh, why is your business needing a line of credit to keep going? There's something that we need to fix more in the
yeah,
financial side or in the revenue side. Something isn't lining up if you're not able to support your business without that growth piece, of course.
sure.
So.
So, like, I mean, I'm guessing the line of credit is like you said before, if you don't use it, that's ideal. But it feels like a kind of a security piece. Like if I have a big AR out there, a big receivable, and it's not coming in for whatever reason, and I may have to pay something off. And that's what one of the things that the line of credit is for, I'm guessing, is to kind of, supplement that until that money comes in. Is it bad to always have, because we had years, let's face it, and we were in the construction world, and we had years where we never got our line of credit to zero because there was always something there. The banks seemed to, at least back then, they always wanted to see a healthy business be at a zero for a line of credit for a month. Is that still kind of the same benchmark they're looking for?
Yeah, I guess it would have to depend on the bank and the person who's kind of doing it. But yeah, essentially you want to be paying off that line of credit. Again, unless if there's some reason for growth and that
Yeah,
opportunity behind it, we really want your business to be that self-sustaining and making sure that you're covering your expenses and your operation if that's what you're utilizing that line of credit for. So if you are having problems with collections and things, that might be that foundation piece
yeah,
that we're
yeah.
kind of need to address before we continue. Well, you might just have to pull on it, but before you continue to pull on it and kind of dig yourself in deeper. And a lot of that comes back to just really not understanding your financials and the story that it's telling.
And I think that's where a big blind spot is, because if you have 200,000 in that example out on people that aren't paying you, if your receivables are there every month that you don't pay that off and you have to tap into that line of credit, it costs you a significant amount of money. So now you're paying for money that you really shouldn't be paying for. So I think it really is, well, I hope it's a point that people right now are listening that are taking good to heart for them, because it does. Your receivables cost you money. You may not see it that way. Even people that try to charge interest or try to do other things, it's still costing you money at the end of the day. So I think that that's really helpful,
Good
to deal
point.
with. So as we start to land the plane today, I have a question about, like, what's the biggest misconception that business owners have about accounting or bookkeeping? Is there any, like, two or three things that just kind of pop up? Maybe they're things we already talked about, maybe they're things we haven't. I'm just curious if you see some misconceptions that business owners have about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I see there's probably two main things that I see. One, that accounting is just data entry, and we are just there to enter the information, and that's the end of it. And it really should be that accounting is kind of fueling the decisions that we're making and being that foundation for growth. And then the second one, and if any accountants are listening out there, they probably understand this, is that we are not historians. We really need to be brought into the business side of things, understanding what's going on when those transactions are happening. Either you're making big purchases or money's coming in or things like that. It's really important that we understand the goal of the company and the transactions that are happening with that. We may be making a big purchase because we have a big job coming up and things. The more you get in accounting involved, the more that we can help and make sure that the financials look correct. Because something that you may purchase on an everyday basis would be coded into one general ledger account. And really, for this specific case, we're going to utilize it for something different, and it needs to be put into a different category, or even class different, so that we
Yeah.
can look at that data in a different way going on down the financial story that we're trying to tell for you.
So garbage in, garbage out, right? That's pretty much how it
100%.
works. Yeah.
100%.
Well, I tell
Yes.
you, I think that's brilliant to think that, or to realize when there's more to this than just data. Because if that was the case, probably in the next few years, AI will be able to take care of that data entry. I don't know what that's going to look like. But then also, it's that human side of we're not historians, where we actually have to make an educated guess. So here we have, in this case for Katie, she's a past director of finance. It doesn't get any higher level. You have that level of expertise looking at it's kind of like looking over your shoulder. And part of me thinks, there are some entrepreneurs listening that are like, that's the last thing I want. I went into business on my own so that I could make my own decisions, make my own calls. And we're not here to say to change that. I just know for myself is I have blind spots and I don't know what I don't know. And I might think this is a really good strategic move. But I never really thought of it from a financial perspective. And we think about it from sales, marketing, what's the customer going to think? What is the industry going to do? I mean, we are good at those, but I feel like this is the one that we really struggle with is what's it going to do financially for us? And that's really where you come in and really shine, I'm guessing, at that point. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really understanding that story and that foundation. Um, because you really shouldn't be making any of your big decisions without understanding the financial impact. Because at the end of the day, if you're a business for profit, you're trying to make profit. And just making decisions based on your gut and not your actual financial statements might not be leading you into a right direction. Honestly, a lot of the people that I talk to, they're like, we made so much money. We have so much revenue coming in. I just collected a $13,000 check. We have to be amazing. And then we
Yeah.
sit down and we realize that, especially in like the construction and things like that, that sometimes people are underbidding or not realizing, or there's
Yeah.
expenses that they don't know are happening. And so it's really important to look at every job and every opportunity with the financials to make that decision, because it can't be based on your gut alone.
Yeah. Well, two things on that. Number one, if you trust your gut and you had a burrito the night before, you're probably not going to get good results. So try not to trust your gut financially. And oddly enough, I knew somebody years ago that was in the remodeling business and they got a big check for a deposit and they took that and bought a truck and paid cash for it and thought life was good, not thinking that, oh my gosh, I have to pay for all the material and the labor, and it costs them their business, unfortunately, eventually. So those are the things that I think are really helpful to get Katie involved in. If you don't, hey, you got blind spots. We all have them. You might have a blind spot on your finances that you don't even know. So really helpful to get another set of eyes to look at it. Um, do you feel like do people struggle opening up their kimono to you, so to speak, and giving you that deeper look, or are people pretty open and letting you in and seeing the inner workings of their business?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of people are very open. By the time that we're having conversations, and we always do like an overview where we're sitting down, we're getting to know each other. Am I the right fit for you? Are you the right fit
Yeah,
for me? By the time that we've gotten to that point, there's a level of trust that we've kind of already established, and they really understand the whole point of what I am trying to do for business owners is to alleviate some of this unknown and bring clarity to their financials and help them tell the story. So usually by that point, we are in a good spot where they want to talk about it. They want to open up their financials, and we really just want to get down to that bottom line and create
sure.
the best foundation that we can for them.
Wow.
And it's a really amazing piece that we kind of come to, like the level of trust and confidence that we have in each other. So again, we are looking for a partnership. We aren't just,
Yeah,
an accountant or a bookkeeper or whatever it may be. We want to be a partner with you, and
yeah.
we want to grow with you, and we want to help you succeed. And if
Wow.
that's
Wow.
us doing our small piece of what we enjoy, which is the numbers,
Yeah.
um, we really want to do that for
Well,
the
nothing
business.
better than, yeah, nothing better than having a director of finance on your team. That's fantastic. But I
Yeah.
also think is, and again, a couple questions, I'm gonna let you go. It's interesting because I think that like when you go to the doctor and he says, "How you feeling?" If you're not feeling good and you say, "I'm fine," you know what? It's kind of on you because you got to open up and be real and say, "This isn't working," or "I'm not feeling right about this." If you say everything is fine and then you go home and something happens, it sure isn't the doctor's fault because you weren't open with him. Same way financially, but it must be hard. I got to think it's hard to hide. If you do a deep dive on somebody's books, it's really hard to hide something in there unless you're literally putting the wrong numbers in. But it's got to be hard to hide that stuff, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we kind of talk about that at the beginning when we're talking to, owners, and it's really like we're probably going to find some of the issues. So well, we know we're going to find some of the issues.
Yeah,
So I always joke, like, where are the bodies buried? If you can point me in the direction that I'm not just searching, I'm going there and
sure.
I'm fixing the problem for you. And we know, so
Yeah,
if you come in and you say, I know we're doing this really, really well, but this is where we need improvement, that I'm just able to focus my time and energy onto those
nice.
problems and fix that piece right away and see how it's
Yep,
going to flow throughout your entire business. So the more you're open and honest with me, the better I can serve you, the more that I can do for you.
sure.
Um, and the better results that we're going to get as well. So,
Yeah. That's so cool. What would your tip of the day be today, Katie? Maybe it's something that we covered, maybe it's something that we haven't yet, but what would your tip of the day be today?
yeah, so we are wrapping up all of the information and kind of getting it down. I always say the tip of the day is your numbers are telling you a story, and listen before you make your next decision.
Yeah. Oh man. Contrary to my brain, so I gotta say this is why I think this is so helpful because I would not think that my numbers tell a story. My company may tell a story, my customer, but I never thought of that piece. So thank you so much for that. So for people listening right now that want to learn more about maybe their blind spots financially, maybe they have some questions that we didn't cover today. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, you can always visit our website. It's cost-solutions.com. I'm
Okay.
sure that it will be linked somewhere around here. You guys do a
Yep.
wonderful job of providing information out to people.
Yep.
And that would be the best way to get a hold of us. You can email us, call us, and we're really here for you. The website will kind of give you an overview, kind of tell you different things that we like to help solve and give the
Sure.
business owners then, yeah,
Cool.
where to start,
Koss,
how the process
Koss.
works.
Yeah, absolutely. Koss-solutions.com. And you have
Yes.
something that you wanted to give the listener if they're interested. So why don't you share that with us if you could?
Yeah, so today we talked about like your P&L not matching your bank account. And that we made a checklist and a little series on that. So we want to gift you the checklist and along with that, a free 15 to 20-minute consultation with myself where we can go over that checklist, talk about different things that you're able to kind of look up and what you see, and then maybe talk about a little bit of a plan or how we can help solve some of those problems for you.
Wow, super cool. So everyone loves a checklist. So
Yeah.
reach out, reach out to Katie, Koss-solutions.com and
Yes.
ask for the checklist, and she'll be happy to get that for you. This has been awesome. You made it super easy. I was super nervous about this because I'm like, I just don't know what I don't know. So I think how did I do? Did I mess it up or did I do okay today?
No, I think you did an amazing job. And talk about
Good.
nervous. Just coming on a show is a little nerve-wracking. So I appreciate all the help that you did as well. So,
Awesome. Awesome. So again, cost-solutions.com. And as we try to say every week, rather than jump into your next podcast or jump into your next activity, just give your finances a thought. And if you struggle, if you're nervous about them, if you're unsure, why continue in that? Just call Katie. She'll help you. Simply complex. I mean, my gosh, director of finance, you can't get any higher. So that's awesome that to have that type of power on your team. And so rather than again just hope is not a financial strategy. Let's plan for this. Let's be intentional. And thank you, Katie, so much for hanging out with us. I'm glad that I was able to put some of my nerves at ease about I guess I'm not as bad as I thought. I was expecting to have to stay after school after this one, but thank you for not making me stay after. And I can't wait to watch where Koss Solutions goes, Koss Accounting Solutions LLC, where you guys go. And thanks again for hanging out with us.
yeah, thank you so much for having us.